Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome in. Today we have a little bit of a hot take, a controversial topic maybe for some. We are discussing Ashes of Creation's PvP and corruption system today. We have dabbled in PvP a bit now in testing phases, whether it's caravans and things like that, or we even have gone and PvP'd against other players for various reasons. And I will say I have gone corrupted already once as well. So before we get into too many details, let's get into it. Now, as many of you are aware, Ashes of Creation is a true PvX game, meaning that the entire world is PvP and PvE at the same time. So there comes in the PvX aspect of it all. And the biggest question that I think a lot of people in the community or a lot of people in general have had around Ashes of Creation, if the game is going to become a gank box where other players just grief low-level players or constantly grief other players. Now, I will say that week 1 and week 2, I could see where people's opinion on that might have changed for the positive, because there was not a lot of player killing or PKing going on within the testing phases. It was happening around the intended PvP systems of caravans, but it was also happening around the intended PvP mechanics of, political resource scarcity, things of that nature. There is also a select few of people, I think I would fall into that say there are teachable moments within the game that PvP can be used for, and I'll get into that here in a little bit as the video progresses. But I think for overall the first 2 weeks of testing, PvP got an overwhelmingly positive review from the community and even from outside sources who were skeptical on if it was truly going to be a gank box. Now, that all might have changed for some people with week 3. As I'm sure you are aware, Asmongold decided to spin up Ashes of Creation for the first time, and he is in my server along with a few other streamers, which I have no issues about. I have no issues about the influx in players or the communities coming into the server. That is all to be expected during testing and even beyond testing. The controversy started around him logging into the game. As we all know, Asmongold has a cult-like following, has a lot of viewership, has a lot of eyes on what he does, and rightfully so, because I do think he has good takes on a few topics and things that he does. So when he logged into the game, he wanted to have the normal player experience, the first time logging into Ashes of Creation. Unfortunately for Asmongold, it did not go that way. Almost immediately after logging in to the server, creating his character, and loading in to the Divine Gate area above Lionhold, he was almost immediately met with PvP interaction. People just griefing him just to get on stream, or just to, get out frustrations for him being there, or their frustrations at him, or they were just joking around. I don't know what the ultimate decision was for these folks to engage in PvP, but I think Asmon took maybe about 10 steps into the world of Vera and died. And died repeatedly. I would say, I have not watched his video or anything like that, but I what I've seen is at least 5, maybe 10 times he died. Just in the starting zone alone. And you could see the disappointment on his face, because he himself, while he was explaining it, said that, this might be something I might have to play off stream, because he just couldn't do it. He couldn't handle the griefing, and rightfully so. And Steven stepped in as being a good GM, as being a good creative director would, or a good mod or a game moderator would do, and put out a blast message across the server to leave Asmongold alone and let him have his player experience. He's logging in for the first time. And unfortunately, that still was met with, unfortunately, people had to get banned for griefing Asmon. And I believe that is rightfully so. And I think there is a big difference between PvP and then just griefing players just to grief them. And in this case, I believe that Asmon was just getting griefed. Now, the mechanics of where this is a teachable moment, I think, for some, or what I would call a teachable moment, is in instances where there are new players who are not familiar, potentially, with the game. So when you die, you leave a pile of glowing ashes, essentially, on the floor. And your typical MMO player will automatically translate a glowing object on the floor to a lootable item. And there have been some cases that I have experienced where people loot my body thinking that it is a drop from a monster. Now, I will say, if you've spent some time in the testing realm and you've been following streamers or other content creators on this, you should have an idea based off of their interactions with things on how this goes. But if you are a completely new player and you have no idea what's going on, you just came in to test, you may not realize that you're looting someone's body. And in this case, I think this is where the Ashes of Creation community, we have to not have a knee-jerk reaction to that effect taking place. As you saw on screen, I just died fighting frogs, and I'm on my way back to my body. And as I get there, there is a player looting my body. And that is not uncommon. I can say I've done that before too, especially since I had something purple and he saw that. So I could definitely see why they would just, grab the stuff and run. Now, when I came to him, I made it very clear that was my body and I had something to say. And I even was able to flag up for PvP. Now, what that means is if you target me, you will see that I have two swords crossed, meaning that I am open to PvP or I will PvP. And in this case, this person, without us saying anything in the chat, knew that was my body and invited me to a party, invited me to trade, and was going to trade me back my items. And I think this is where these teachable moments are for folks, that if someone engages you after you've just looted something, maybe it is someone's body and they've made it back in time. Now, again, it is up to you as the player to do as what we did here, right? To trade me back my items that I dropped. This is the risk versus reward aspect of Ashes of Creation at its core. My risk was taking on too many mobs for the reward of grinding my XP faster. And unfortunately, I succumbed to the risk and dropped not only items out of my inventory, but got my XP debt as well. This player could have easily just said, no, I'm not giving you your stuff back, and we could have battled it out in a PvP battle, right? I could have attacked him for my things and could have said, no, I'm going to attack you because you're stealing my things off the ground and I want them back. I think this is fine, right? Either way this goes, I think those types of interactions are what Ashes intends PvP to be. That it is not that I'm griefing this player for an unknown reason or just because they're a lower level than me. It is because I am attacking them for a valid reason, and the reason being that my resources were taken from me. This is what differs from the situation that occurred with Asmongold. Asmongold joined the server and loaded in as a level 0-1 player, right, with no gear, basic weapon, and immediately was player killed, was PK'd immediately. And that's something that shouldn't happen. I think Intrepid has a good opportunity here to provide a little bit of a safety net for new coming players and to implement maybe a PvP free zone at the Divine Gates or at the Lionhold area, right? One or the other or both, right? It doesn't matter. To me, I feel like the Divine Gates for sure should have a PvP free zone because they are what the player first experiences when they get into the game. It is something new for them and it's unknown for them. So I think that them having a bad experience at the start really lends itself negatively to the overall gameplay. Where does corruption fit into all of this? Well, I will say that there are times, again, where things happen and they will have a negative or an adverse reaction that occurs due to that happening. We were going to grind in a certain area of the Riverlands, and we were met with a lot of mobs and a lot of ads that repopped on top of us, and ultimately we died. Now, the nice thing about this area was we were right next to the Ember Springs, so we were able to quickly go back and get our things. However, when we did show up, there were, again, players there who in my opinion, would not fall under the umbrella of not knowing the glowing pile of ashes is a body versus a monster drop. These were folks who put in a little bit of time to level their characters and, have a basic understanding of the game. The guild that they're a part of is a very reputable guild. The organizer of the guild behind it, some of you might know, is a very reputable content creator and, from all I can see, is a very good guild leader as well. And I have nothing but mutual respect for the guild and that guild leader and content creator as well. In fact, I even sent Nice a message after the interaction and said, listen, hey, we had a PvP interaction with a few of your members. I think it went well on both sides. There was reason for what happened on both sides. And ultimately, we died, you guys died, and we went our separate ways. But this is what I'm talking about as a form of a risk versus reward. These players decided to loot our bodies, and they even decided to loot our bodies right in front of us after we've came back to the area where we died and we're trying to get our bodies. And for me, I did my flagging for PvP and made it aware to these players that, hey, what you're doing and where you're at is, not going to be met very well if you continue on this path. And ultimately, both the players looted my body, and then they went to go loot a party member's body, and I called out to the party. I said, listen, we're getting looted. They obviously know these are our bodies. We're going to PvP. And we ultimately attacked them. I think the whole skirmish was great. They got a few licks on us because of mob ads and things like that. And then we ultimately got a few licks on them after we pulled out of the mob dense area and were actually PvP. I will say that we did have one more or two more people than they did. But really, we had a support and a tank, and then 2 DPS versus, I think it was a tank or a fighter and an archer. The whole interaction went well. I have no ill will against the group or what had occurred, but it did turn me corrupted at one point because when we initially engaged, there was mutual combat occurring, and then after a respawn of a player, we nuked that player down pretty quickly before they could engage us again. And, unfortunately, that's the cost of waiting or not waiting to attack another player. We wanted to make it known that, looting people's bodies in front of them and while they're there on top of them was not, something that our group was going to tolerate. So in the end, we did go red. We did get corrupted, and we're still, as of this point, corrupted. I wasn't able to work off my corruption, so I had to log for the day, and the servers are now down, and I'm unable to work off that corruption. But overall, I think PvP is working as intended. I think corruption is working as intended for Intrepid. They did just also buff corruption to where it's even harder now, and even more detrimental to players who do go red. So I do see that this system is working as intended, because I'm not trying to go red by PKing people. It's just the system turned me red due to the circumstances of how quickly the PvP interaction occurred. Overall, if you feel like Ashes of Creation is going to be a gank box, I do think that you are on the wrong path with that. I have had nothing but good PvP interactions with people, and even turning red, people are still not engaging in fighting a corrupted player, due to the stigma, I think, of that player is, just being a jerk or trying to PK people. But I think overall the systems are working as intended, and as we go through testing, iterations on these systems will be made. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the hot take on our PvP and corruption system and how it's been going so far in Ashes. If you guys liked the video, please do consider subscribing, like, comment, put your interactions on how you think PvP is going, what your thoughts are. Should there be PvP free zones? Should Ashes go with a different model? I personally don't think Ashes is going to change a core pillar of their gameplay or their game DNA. I think they will just iterate on how to enforce their mechanics to better serve the community as a whole. As always, guys, I appreciate you for joining in on an episode, and we'll see you on the next one.